Well, the Mets, I mean, just find new and interesting ways to entertain you, do they not? And last night,
that's one
obviously,
word.
with Luis Rojas and his decision to take out Taijuan Walker, and after the error at third base and the bloop hit out to in between second base and right field that falls first and second, they're nursing the one-run lead, goes to loop there, and Walker obviously venting and showing his frustration on the mound. And listen, it's a bad move. I mean, there's really no other way to defend it. I mean, it's a bad move. You got to watch it with your eyes. It's not a stunning move because this is where baseball's gone. I mean, so everyone out there and that was slack-jawed on social media and reacting to the decision by Luis Rojas, well, this is where we are in Major League Baseball. Let's also come to that realization about can't wait to get into the bullpen. Starters are going less and less deep into baseball games. There is no longer the guy that's going to go out there and throw 110, 120 pitches consistently. Guys are handled like fine pieces of china. So they can't wait to get into that bullpen. They can't wait to open up that iPad, look at the analytics department, look at the matchups, and go out there and get it. So even though, yes, watching it, eyeball test, you're saying to yourself, no, this is Walker's game. Keep him in that game. It's not like they're hitting rockets off of him. It was an error at third base, and it was a bloop hit to the outfield. You've got to keep Taijuan Walker in the game. I totally agree with you. It was a bad move by Luis Rojas, but you see this all the time throughout Major League Baseball on any given night.
I actually blame the front office for what happened last night, and here's why. Luis Rojas is not empowered to make a decision using his eyeballs. He is not empowered to make that decision, and we all found that out last night. Whether or not you thought so beforehand, you've been paying attention to baseball, and that managers, a lot of them are middle managers. Well, there's some that are more than others, and Luis Rojas, who's basically in a contract year, who's not a famous manager, doesn't have a lot of cachet, who's spent a lot of time in the Mets organization, but in terms of him being the manager, he's basically still new around here, still always on this trial, right? Hired by Brody, different organization, a different regime, rather. He is not empowered to make that decision because if you make a decision that goes against the numbers and you are wrong, you are openly defying your bosses in the front office. I 100% believe this, and that you are the one who has hell to pay. Luis Rojas makes the move last night to Aaron Loop, who's been excellent this year. You can totally understand why the numbers would tell you, go to the bullpen right there, have Loop get you out of this jam. He will be able to justify that to his bosses, and that will be more palatable, even though they gave up the lead and subsequently lost that game. He will be able to justify that as opposed to saying, come on, Walker was dealing. You can't say that to your bosses anymore, at least, or you know what? Luis Rojas can. And I feel bad for him in that sense because this does come back on him because he is the manager. He is the one making the decision. But ask yourself, has he been castrated where he can't even make the decision to leave Taijuan Walker in that game last night? Like, we're never going to know the truth there because Rojas is too classy. He's not going to say it, and he doesn't have agency anyway because he's managing for his job. So we're never going to know, but just seeing where baseball has gone, seeing how this team is, and can I take it a step further? This Mets season has turned into an outright disaster, right? We all see it now. Even if the good news on DeGrom yesterday, the season has turned out into just a total failure and disaster. Okay, we're wondering, why are the players, why is the approach off? Why do they keep saying that the guys are not there's a disconnect between the players and the information that the front office and the manager and the coaching staff is trying to give these guys? Why does this look so bad? Well, you got your proof right there. Guys, I would imagine, could feel like, hey, even if I do everything right, even if Luis Rojas is a great communicator and I feel like his door is open and I can go talk to him or he's known me since the minors or whatever it is, even if I do everything right, I'm going to get pulled because the spreadsheet tells that I'm going to get pulled. What kind of culture does that foster in a clubhouse? So this thing is totally wrong and
no,
off.
I get it, but here's the problem you have, right? The argument against that is you look across the way. Kapler's a guy that basically manages by the spreadsheet, and they've won 82 games.
They said on the broadcast, they've got everything is broken right from this year. They did not deserve to win that game when those two guys collide like Mo, Larry, and Curly in the outfield.
But you look at the lineups, and Maggie, I don't disagree with you, but I also think it's kind of different where, approach at the plate offensively when you're looking at the hitting coach as compared to, reacting to what you're seeing during the course of a game, and understanding that sometimes there is a moment. Sometimes you have to lean into a performance. Sometimes there are guys that do have special nights, athletes that do have special nights and go above and beyond what the stats and the analytics are telling you. It's a conversation we had last year during the World Series about Blake Snell, right? And we got into it that day, afterward. But, that's what frustrates you last night watching that game. And, as Taijuan Walker said afterward, this is here to stay. I mean, it is not changing.
He knows.
Right? And he vented his frustration. He didn't want to come out of that game. He said, I came up through Major League Baseball where it was an old school mindset. I want to throw 100-plus pitches each and every start. That is not where baseball is trended to. That is not where baseball is right now. So, yeah, it's a bad managerial decision by Luis Rojas. Now, you want to say that, as you mentioned, that Rojas's hands are tied. This is the game plan. This is what the analytics department and management are telling him.
He can't go with his gut.
No.
He doesn't have the power. He doesn't have the agency.
There's not many managers in baseball that do.
And he's not one of them.
I agree
so
with
add
you.
him to the list.
I
But it's had a
understand that.
bad trickle-down effect on the rest of the team. And I'm glad you mentioned the Rays, though, because just to stop on that for a second, because I was thinking about that last night, too. You have a team like the Rays made to the World Series last year, and a team that everyone's trying to figure out how are they so good at this, right? But think about it. They had an issue with Blake Snell that was incredibly controversial last year in the World Series, like title on the line. They pull Blake Snell, it blows up in their faces, right? And they lose and all that. They traded Blake Snell. And I think there was a part of them that maybe thought, we did this move, we went by the spreadsheet. He was one of the aces of our staff, really, is Glasnow, him, whatever. They actually traded him, I think, so that he wouldn't be this frustrated, ticked off guy who would then be questioning Kevin Cash. Like, the Rays cycle through guys so much that I think they want to keep all the players who are, I'm just happy to be here, I'm trying to prove myself, because they will be more forgiving and they will be more, I think, understand. Like, they're not going to make a big stink about it if the manager pulls them out, as opposed to Snell, who was obviously completely ticked off. And I think it carried over, and they're like, we got to get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, I also think talent's talent. They probably made the decision that they've gotten the best out of Blake Snell as well.
That could be part of it, too.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily buy into that conspiracy theory that that's the reason why they moved Blake Snell during the course of the offseason, but obviously he's gone out to San Diego, and he hasn't pitched brilliantly this year for the San Diego Padres. But, to last night and to this Met team is, that's why you have the chance at Citi Field to fire Luis Rojas, and but this is
should be fire Sandy.
Well, it's not, and it's not just. Look at the players. I mean, look at the underperformance of the players. Look at the fact that Francisco Lindor swinging on the first pitch and popping out, to the first baseman belt. I mean, look at the very fact of, Pete Alonso inability to go out there and make solid contact with the bases loaded after the Giants embarrassed themselves defensively in the bottom half of the ninth inning. I mean, we get into all these scenarios. Javier Baez, previous at-bat, eighth inning, the swings and misses as he's trying to hit the ball a country mile. I mean, this is what you're watching on a day-in, day-out basis with this team. And you actually catch a break, right? I mean, you catch a break last night where Chris Bryant, throws the ball errantly over to first base. You tie the game up, right? You get to a scenario where you get Cueto out of the game at that stage, and you're like, all right, well, here we go. Maybe this is going to be a Met night. Maybe they finally beat the San Francisco Giants, and unfortunately, it ends in disastrous way where you question the manager, you question the approach of the organization, and overall, I mean, offensively, you continue to question the talent that is made up of this lineup through 1 through 8 on a night-in, night-out basis.
No doubt. And, of course, like, the players are the ones and the manager are going to get the brunt of it. And we've been criticizing the players and their offense and their lack of offense all season long. And it even goes back to last season when they just couldn't drive in runners. But last night, like, when you... Again, like, Aaron Boone was in the same situation, right? Being asked by Brian Cashman if he's just a puppet. I mean, not having the same kind of age. Like, he doesn't have the agency either. I think what happened is they made great moves at the trade deadline. The team's better, and they found this new vibe and mojo, and things are working out really well for them. Like, last night when Luis Rojas goes to Aaron Loop there, while you can understand it made sense on paper, and that was the only place it made sense. And that just shows you all that you need to know about where Luis Rojas stands with this current regime. And, we've talked a lot about, the Mets needing some fresh eyes and new blood and, what is Steve Cohen going to do in this offseason and top down and all of that. And Theo Epstein's name comes up a lot, right? Because he's sort of this pipe dream guy who's gotten these two franchises and, Boston and Chicago to the promised land when all hope was lost, right? Think about those two managers, though, that he did win with. And I know Boston now feels like a different time because it's so long ago, but think about it. You had Terry Francona and Joe Madden.
Yeah.
Almost the last two guys managing, really, maybe Dusty Baker. Like, there's only a handful of guys now that you really feel like could have just like, if they say my gut's telling me to do it, or I feel like this guy's on, or, using one of those just sort of vague baseball terms, guys got it, whatever, that they would actually have the support of the organization behind that. And you wouldn't have somebody saying, well, the numbers said you made the wrong move, even if it backfired. Maybe if there is some kind of like pie in the sky scenario where somehow Theo Epstein does end up taking over this team, my hope would be have a manager who you at least trust to make a decision, even if the numbers may be telling you it's not right.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Madden was a very, very kind of pro analytics guy, very forward thinking when you look at it. And Francona, a big-time players guy, no question about it, went up there with Boston, and you got great individual performances as well when they finally did win up there in Boston, Schilling and the like with that Red Sox team. But, yeah, it's a fair point. I don't know if you're going to get that. I mean,
I don't know either.
I really don't. I mean, I don't know, Maggie. I think the whole idea of this is not where if you believe in analytics and you believe in the process, well, this is where Major League Baseball is. I mean, this is it. So, I mean, sit back, relax, and enjoy it. You're going to get frustrated like on a Wednesday night out at Citi Field, or you're going to get frustrated if you're a Rays fan in the World Series, or you're going to get frustrated. I mean, it comes along with the territory. They're going to manage, they are middlemen. They're not puppets, but they are middlemen. They don't define the lineup night in, night out. There is a lot of minds that come into play there, right? They might handle the in-game decisions, but there is a game plan for how you are going to manage the team. Mm-hmm. Everything is looked at. So those guys that are, kind of manage on the gut, those guys are dinosaurs. I mean, they are being ushered out across Major League Baseball. They really are. I mean, hell, you go back to the Sherman piece in the New York Post where, he's talking about the Yankees and their analytics department, and scouts were saying within the, organization, well, we give the information. They don't listen to it. They listen more to the analytics department than they do listen to us, mm-hmm. and we're out there and we're scouting. So, I mean, that's all being ushered out across the sport.
No, I get it. And I am someone who likes to see the good in having data and analytics and being smarter and being as smart as you possibly can, because I've seen the ways that it's helped baseball teams. I see the way that, that defensive lineman shifts, playing playing to the numbers and the spray charts and all of that stuff has helped the team. Hell, it's helped the Mets. I mean, I like to believe that I am somebody who can see the good in having all that data. What I think is unfortunate about what we saw last night with the Mets, and Rojas said, I would have made the same decision in April as I would have made in late August, kind of going against what the broadcasts and what Gary, Keith, and Ron were saying, like if you had won 9 of your last 11, are you leaving Taijuan Walker in the game? And I think Rojas was basically saying, no, I would have made that decision in April just in August as I would in August, because what the issue is, it feels like Rojas doesn't have a choice. I like analytics, I like data, but you also have to say, like, shouldn't the manager have a choice? And I thought by his comments last night after the game, it was like he never even had the option to leave Taijuan Walker in the game.
But here's where I would give Luis Rojas a little bit of advice, right? And if he's listening to us right now, after that disastrous loss last night, is, I would manage the games here moving forward as he sees fit, because the way that this is trending and the hill that the Mets are going to have to overcome in order to get into the playoffs, well, you see the Mets, I mean, more often than not. I mean, I would probably say 85% of the time, they're not going to make the playoffs. So then what's going to be the big reaction by Steve Cohen afterward?
Everyone's
and maybe he cleans house. So if I was Rojas
here, go out your own way?
I'm going to, I mean, honestly, I am. I mean, because, if the reports out there is that, Sandy has pushed to have Scott's interim tag removed. Cohen doesn't want to do it. The Rosenthal piece in The Athletic that they still have eyes on maybe a big name executive. Yep. You mentioned Theo Epstein. Anytime anyone names a big name, big name potential executive, Theo Epstein always comes to the forefront.
We know Cohen loves the Dodgers,
right? So
sees them as the crown jewel.
Right. So, if that is the case and you put Sandy into the business operations or some other job within the Mets organization, whatever it might be, and you have Theo Epstein take over, well, Theo Epstein is going to bring in his own guys. Mm-hmm. And so if I were Rojas, I'd manage it. If my hands are tied right now, I'd cut the reins and I'd manage this team as I see fit, because the way it's going right now, the way that the analytics are leading the way, and if that department is leading to me making baseball decisions, it ain't working.
Right. And that is like in a perfect world, I think that you would want to see that, and it would make for like a great moment for him. And I'm sure he's probably been frustrated or felt, at times probably freed by the numbers, right? Because they're telling you stuff and giving you insights, but also handcuffed by the numbers like you saw from last night. But there's also a real life component to this, which is this is a guy who's getting his opportunity at the major league level and is going to want to both appeal to the players and appease his bosses. Like, there is a real life comes into play there, that you don't want to be openly defying everyone and just like, I'm going out and blaze my own glory here.
But it's those decisions. It's last night. I mean, it's not ripping apart the team. It's not napalming the organization. It's making the decisions. He's a good baseball man. Luis Rojas has been around the sport. I mean, look at the bloodlines. I mean, he's been around the sport his entire life. He knows baseball. He knows it. So, I mean, I'd be hard-pressed for anyone to tell me he doesn't. So if I were Rojas here, I'm not telling you that I'm not going to listen to those meetings, or I'm not going to. But in the game, I'm going to go out there and let my eyeballs lead the way. I really am. And last night he didn't. And it came back to haunt him. And he looked absolutely despondent in the postgame when he's answering questions about it, because, he might go out there and take it for the team and say, I'm going to make this decision in April just like I did in August, or if we had won 9 of 11 instead of losing 9 of 11, Maggie. But he understands it. He's been around the sport. He's watching that game. He sees the reaction of the player. He's been a guy that's been the ultimate player's guy. One of the big strengths about Luis Rojas is he's a tremendous communicator, right? The players respond to him. They're no longer responding to him for a reason. So I'm going to get back to the reason why Luis Rojas was such a young, dynamic candidate within this organization that was going to be on Beltran's staff, gets the job because Carlos Beltran and the Astros cheating scandal. But the reason why Luis Rojas was a young coach in this organization that a lot of people admired, which was his ability to communicate and to connect with players. And that connection right now is not there for a myriad of different reasons.
Well, ask yourself, right? When do people reveal their true motivations, or not to say true colors, because I don't think he's like, being disingenuous or anything, but is it when you're having a conversation with them before or after a game, or is it the moment when you make a move in the game? And listen, Taijuan Walker, and I think everyone on that team understands when is the time to show a little faith in a guy. And it's not your pep talks, and it's not having an open door, and it's not, as the Yankees said they wanted to exhale when they walked into, the manager's office, as opposed to, inhale and tighten up their jaws and stuff like that, like whatever they said about Girardi. Like, you show it in the moment. And he showed it last night in the moment when he pulled Taijuan Walker from that game. That's going to speak more volumes to the rest of the team than any other of the other types of classic communication that you're going to have. You show it in the moment.
I get it. But if his hands are truly tied.
And I think his hands are truly tied. But
that's why I would make that decision. That's why if I were Rojas waking up on this Thursday.
You're kicking yourself.
You're kicking yourself. And if I'm going to go out, and right now all signs are that he's going to be out after this season comes to an end. And I would go out my own way. I'd go out my own way. It wouldn't mean that he wouldn't get another job in Major League Baseball. It wouldn't mean that he wouldn't maybe not get another opportunity later on down the line or be on somebody's staff next year, because I think Luis Rojas has a very, very good reputation just talking to people around Major League Baseball that I think in all likelihood Luis Rojas would land on somebody's staff next year. I'm not telling you that he'd be a manager next year in 2022. But I do think he'd probably have I do think he'd have a job in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, but think about that, Mose. He's probably, and I can imagine that he would be like in his own mind. Now we're kind of getting into the psychology of this thing. But again, you have a guy who got the job maybe a little too soon. The guy's, he's not even 40 yet, right? And you have someone who, what other front office would want to hire someone if they thought the manager was openly defying the analytics staff?
No, it's not. It's a matter.
He's got to manage that in his mind.
I get it, but it's right now. It's not working. It's not working. So if I'm Rojas here, it would be. I'm not telling you you're not going to put together the lineup with the analytics department. I'm talking about in games, those decisions last night. Like if I think Luis Rojas had full gamut to make any decision he wants in that game last night, I don't think he's taking Walker out.
I don't either. I just don't think he has the option.
That's the point. That's the point I'm making is that now I would, if I was Rojas, I'm going to make that decision. I'm going to lean and trust in the player. I'm going to keep Walker in the game. I don't care if I get a tongue lashing from Scott in the analytics department afterward, because that is the right baseball decision. That's the right baseball decision. It has nothing to do with how it worked out. It had really nothing to do. If Loop comes in and gets Crawford, who doesn't rip the double down the right field line and score 2 runs to give the Giants the lead, had nothing to do with it. We're all watching that game at home last night, Maggie, saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? We've watched sports enough.
I get it.
Walker's throwing a 1. He's got 74 pitches, and you're taking him out of the game in the 7th inning.
I don't think that he has the ability to freelance, go rogue, make that decision. And I think it's easy for us to sit here and say, just do it. Do what you want to do, when he's working in an organization, in a system, one that's been, I'm sure, has defined roles that they've been working under all year. Yes, not working. Team's been disappointing. They've underachieved. I think it's easy for us on the outside to say, go rogue and do it your way. I don't know if that's so easy for that guy in the moment.
That's what I tell him to do. That's what I tell him to do, because the analytics and this decision-making process ain't working. And this team is staggering.
Well, I think you see how broken it kind of is all the way.
They are absolutely staggering around.
If you're a player on that team, too, for as much as they've all underachieved, but, I mean, who do you even take your direction from? It should be Rojas.
Yeah.
But that's, not even a reality. Taijuan Walker told you, I'm not going to get a chance, in this day and age. He should have last night. But, I'm not getting the chance to finish what I started here.
No,
And how does that trickle down to the rest of the clubhouse? It's funny because you have the opposite. What happened in Philadelphia? See what happened with Joe Girardi leaving Nola, leaving Wheeler into the game. Now, granted, much later into the game, they end up losing both of them to the Rays.
Yeah, I mean, I know.
This is why Rojas probably feels like he can't make that decision.
Well, I don't know if there's the correlation, but yes, I mean, it's also a Phillies bullpen, and you saw the trust that Rojas had in Loop. It's just a terrible baseball decision. It just is. Any way you cut it, but where the chance of firing Rojas raining down at Citi Field, the overall negativity around the organization, the team at least showed you a little bit of spark last night, didn't get their doors blown off. And let's be honest, the Giants were begging for the Mets to take that game last night. And the Mets said, thanks, but no thanks.
I can't believe they didn't win.
We'll get to Mr. Smiles, by the way, Francisco Lindor, who had a nice pinch-hitting performance last night as well. We'll get to him, too. Moose and Maggie with you, 1028. We're rolling. It's a midday Thursday, 877-337-6666. Met fans, we want to hear from you.